Hello, Matt back again. Right, so not posted for a while, but I'm gonna start to post a bit more regularly now. I keep saying that, don't I? But it doesn't always happen. So what I thought today was I thought I'd give a bit of an update on where I am in terms of my Wars of the Roses project. Now, basically in May we've got Crackcon 2 coming along, organised by the guys at the Plastic Crack podcast. And I've been lucky enough to be given a role in the Wars of the Roses big battle that's going on there. So basically what I've been doing, Martin was kind enough to let me play Oxford, and yeah, so I've basically been building up my Wars of the Roses army. So what I've done, what I'm going to talk about today is basically an update on how that's going, how many I've done so far, what kind of bases I've done. Now, I'd already started kind of putting together a Wars of the Roses army probably a year and a half ago. I put together a unit of the Earl of Northumberland's army, a force for the Earl of Northumberland, and also started to add to that some units for Somerset as well. So, but it's quite interesting because the Wars of the Roses project that I've had also kind of mirrors the problem that I have with basing. Now, this is something I started my very first video with just over a year ago, and I've never really got around this idea of how do I base my figures. In other words, I'm talking specifically about how many figures on a base, what size base, etc, etc. There are so many different games out there, so many different types of basing, individual bases, round bases, square bases, a couple of men on a base, 4 men on a 20-20 base, 40-60 base, etc, etc, big red bat bases, which I'll come on to in a moment. It gets confusing, and it also kind of, it almost slows you down a little bit when you're actually in the middle of a project and when you're trying to decide what you're going to do. Well, basically, I've decided to forget all of that now, and I'm just going to base it the way I want it to be based, and the game is going to have to suit me. So any game I play from now on, I'm simply going to change the rule. So whether it's casualty removal or counting casualties on the board or multi-basing or single bases or whatever, I don't care. I don't care what the rules say. I am simply going to do what I want to do, and then I'll find a way of recording casualties, because at the end of the day, that is all it is. It's only down usually to how do you record casualties. Now, there are some games out there which are a little bit difficult to do this with, such as Baron's War, which is a much more smaller unit skirmish game, and you also have things like Cohesion. Although, to be honest, I'd just ignore Cohesion as well, because if you've got you're supposed to have like I don't know, 6 men within a 3-inch radius, 3-inch diameter circle, then that doesn't matter if you've already got 6 men on a single base. You've got Cohesion. So Cohesion just, for me, adds a unnecessary punitive element to a game. So if I was playing Baron's War, my friends, we play Cohesion in Baron's War, but we pretty much don't pay much attention to it unless it gets silly, where it's kind of stringing out and that kind of thing, the sort of stuff you used to get in Warhammer 40k, where people would use like lines of conga lines and things like that. Be sensible in the game. If it's not affecting the game and it's not giving someone an unfair advantage, then it's not gonna make any difference. Okay, I'm more inclined to get more to. I'm still interested in skirmish games. I'm still playing mostly skirmish games, but I really want to get the big battles going as well soon and sort of get onto those sort of games. Anyway, so this is where I am. So what I think the Wars of the Roses stuff is a really good example of the journey that my basing experience has taken. So let's take a look at where we are then. So over a year ago, I started to base up Wars of the Roses figures, and basically what I did was I put them into groups of 4. Okay, so if you can see these guys here, and this is a good example. So these archers, okay, 4 on a base, a 20-20 base, okay, 4 archers, 20-20, and they're all grouped together. Now, what you might notice about this base is it's kind of double base. Now, the reason why there is a base on top of a base there is because I single based these arches to start with, because I was so confused about what I wanted to do with them, because my original plan with these guys was basically to put them into movement trays. So if I can just grab a movement tray. So my original plan was single based archers in a movement tray. Then I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll base them up in 4s, and then I can put them into movement trays. Okay, so we've got the Earl of Northumberland there, some Somerset's archers as well, so they're kind of mixing it in together, these guys, Somerset and Northumberland together, doesn't matter. Okay, I thought, there you go. So 4x4 bases, okay, that's essentially also a standard unit in Hail Caesar, because it's no, actually it's not quite, you need 160, that's 120 millimeters. So standard unit in Hail Caesar would be about 160, so it would be 4 of these bases side by side. We'll grab another Northumberland. Okay, so there you go. So that would be a normal standard unit in Hail Caesar. Small unit would be that size, and then together they would be a standard unit. So that's 160 millimeters frontage altogether. Okay, so that worked fine for a while, and then I thought, well, I've got to be honest, they're starting to look a bit dull. You know, 4 guys on a base, you know, not much going on, not a lot of personality. I think I'd prefer it if there was actually a bigger base. And also, I kind of fell out of love with the movement trays as well. Now, I know a lot of people love movement trays, but if you spent a long time basing your figures and then you stick them in a wooden movement tray, you've got the wood around the edge of the movement tray, you know, they're kind of moving around the board, and I don't know, it kind of lost it for me a little bit. And I also, it's not 100% secure in a movement tray as well. They get knocked over, they move about. You can secure them with magnets, of course, and with magnetic sheets, but that's a lot of hassle as well. So what did I do next? So moved from the single bases to the 4x4. Now this is standard Hail Caesar suggestion, really, that they say put 4 men on a base, okay, on a 20x20 base. But I also decided that that wasn't really for me either. Now, quite a few people are using 60x40 bases, so they use 3 bases, which gives them 180 frontage, okay. But my big love at the moment is the big red bat bases, okay, which Simon produces, and I love these things. I've been using loads of them in Franco-Prussian War. I've been putting together little base camps and things like that, putting them together and using them in that way. So what I did next was I decided to start putting them on big red bat bases. So this is basically my kind of work in progress at the moment in terms of different Wars of the Roses. So here you can see I've got 2 40x40 bases on a big red bat base. Okay, now you can also see that those guys started individually, then they went on to a 40x40 base, now they're on a big red bat base. So this kind of shows some of my kind of indecision when it comes to basing figures. Okay, so that's where they kind of end up. And then if I've painted up any newer figures, because I want some kind of consistency in the height of the figures as well, and this is a new base of Billman, okay, I've now attached them to a 4x4. I glued the 4x4 to the big red bat base, and then I glued the individual figures to the 4x4. Okay, so the only reason I put the 4x4 on there is to give them a little bit of height, so they're not lower than the other bases I've already got. Now you might say to me, well, why are you putting 8 individual figures on a base when you don't really need to? Well, I just want to keep that consistency, and also with Hail Caesar, a unit is 16 men. Okay, 16 models is basically a standard unit, and the big red bat bases side by side give me, just grab another base, give me 180 frontage. Okay, so I'm finding that the big red bat bases are ideal for me to use. I'm sorry about that. Okay, ideal for me to use. So yeah, so basically that's 180 frontage. That's the standard unit in Hail Caesar. Okay, if I take it apart, these are 90 millimeters. Okay, so 90 mil small unit, 180 mil standard unit in Hail Caesar. 4 of these is a large unit. I can't go 3, doesn't quite work as a large unit. So 1 for a small unit, 2 for a standard unit, 4 for a large unit, and a large unit looks really nice actually with these bases. So that's where I am at the minute. I'm and I did the same thing with another men at arms unit that I'm putting together. So I put 2 40x40s on there. Okay, 40x40 mil bases onto a big red bat base. Okay, and then that allows me to give it the same kind of height as the ones that I'd already done, the pre-done ones. Okay, just fly over here. Okay, another Billman base coming together there. Some archers, as you can see again, they were pre-made onto 40x40s. They've gone onto a big red bat. Another set of archers were also on a 40x40, now on a big red bat base. And then some newer crossbowmen that were not originally on the 40x40, but I've done the same thing with these. Put 2 40x40s onto a big red bat base and then glued on the individual figures. Okay, they're going to be some Burgundian crossbowmen. I've already started the shields for them, so the shields are there waiting to go on to the crossbowmen. Okay, so you might be thinking, well, okay, so what do these things look like once they've been put together? Well, let me show you some finished results. So just to sum up then, individual bases, got confused, put them onto a 40x40, then stuck them onto a big red bat base, which is where they're going to stay. And now this is the kind of finished result. If we fly over here, flying over the Germans, okay, here we go. So this is what I kind of end up with. Okay, so these are some handgunners, German handgunners that are on big red bat base. This is Earl of Essex. This is the Earl of Somerset on a big red bat base. Nice figure, I love that figure. Okay, bit of terrain in the background there, and then up here is my army. Okay, now this is the Earl of Oxford. Quite a few of his troops, and a few Swiss crossbowmen at the front there, and they're all on big red bat bases. Okay, and the beauty of the big red bat bases is they slot into each other. Yeah, so they all slot into each other. They either slot into each other from the side and also from the front as well, as you can see there. Okay, yeah, so you can either have side by side when they're in battle line, or when they're in column, moving in a line in column. So that's 2 side by side is 180 frontage, which is a standard unit in Hail Caesar. So this is where I am going to stick from now on with my basing. I'm going to stick with the big red bat bases. I'm probably not going to put 8 guys on every single base from now on. That's a bit excessive and it's a lot of figures, but to be honest, it looks nice. I like 8 guys on a base. You know, they really look like they're in the crush of battle. so that's where we are at the moment. So once they've kind of finished off, they're quite nice to look at. So this is kind of a little plug really for Big Red Bat. You know, get hold of these bases if you like multi-basing and you like to kind of organise your armies in this way, then get hold of them. There's the Earl of Essex at the back with a trumpeter and his standard. Okay, so hope that's been interesting for you. It's kind of really was about my kind of indecision about basing and my little bit of the project for Crackcon, the road to Crackcon 2, and yeah, got a load more to finish off. I'm probably not going to use all these units, obviously, in the battle at Crackcon, but I'm going to take them all along anyway, just to see if anybody needs to borrow any. You never know. But I'm just loving putting these together at the minute. So it's War of the Roses all the way for me for probably the next 2 months, and then I'm probably going to get back to Franco-Prussian War. Okay, and there we go. Finish with a shot of the Swiss pike, which I need to base and flock later on. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy your Saturday, and I will speak to you later.